So it's been 2 weeks since the last inspection. Today I'm going to do another full inspection, but I'm going to do a little differently this week. I don't have a full mapping of what frames contain what product in them, so I'm going to be having my assistant David helping me out as I go through all the frames, and he'll be writing down if they contain brood, pollen, or honey, or combinations, and then I can get a better idea and see a map of the hive. I want to try to get the better brood comb towards the center where they're going to be during the winter, so that come spring they can have the good worker comb right where they already are for the queen to start laying eggs. Also, I'm going to be taking off the top honey super today, but I'm not harvesting it. I'm going to be giving it to Queen Beatrice. Actually won't be taking it today, but I'm going to be putting in a bee escape board. If you aren't familiar with a bee escape board, it's just a simple board here that has a double triangle system going in it where the bees go through, they go down this hole, you put it triangle side down, they go down through the hole and they make their way out the little funnels and out the corners, but they can't find their way back in. The idea is that you keep this in between the honey super and the brood chamber, and the bees leave the honey super and can't get back in it, so when the next day you come back and you take off the honey and you don't have to deal with a bunch of bees. The honey that I have here in this top super, the comb is really kind of gnarly and it's wavy, and I could try to take each frame out individually and sweep off the bees, but I'm afraid it's going to take so long and just be so messy, because as I pull it out I'll probably be breaking up the honey and exposing honey, and the bees will get sticky and I can't sweep them off and my brush will get sticky. So to save me the pain and trouble, I'm just going to use the escape board. So unfortunately it takes more than a day to do that, but it's easier. I just have to put on the escape board today, come back tomorrow, and take off the honey. I could, if I wanted to, leave Beatrice alone and not feed her this fall, but I have plans for her. I want to be able to split this hive come spring, and I don't know how well they'll winter. I have a lot of extra honey from Queen Anne. I think that we've got more than what we need. She's 4 boxes tall. That's probably enough, plus some. So I'm going to be taking my chances here and give some of it to Queen Beatrice. This number 5?
This is, yeah.
Brood. Four we'll call honey. Three is honey. Two is honey, and put a note on there that there's drone comb as well, but it's empty. They're filling it with honey. And 10 is, well, it's mostly empty, but it looks like they're putting honey in it. So just make it honey.
After going through all of the hives and marking down what products were found in each of the frames, I made these diagrams, color-coded to represent the different products. These diagrams are a front-on view of the hives, with the box number 1 being on the bottom and box 2 on the top, and looking at the frames end-on. The colors here just represent what we found in the hive and not necessarily the locations within the frame of each of the products. As you can see down in the bottom box for Queen Beatrice, frames 1 through 4 contain mostly honey. It's not to say that it's completely honey, but it's mostly honey. And the second frame had some drone-sized cells, but they were being filled with honey. There were no brood found in it. Frames 5 through 8 were mostly brood, although the tops of the frames also contain some ribbons of honey, as you'd normally find in a frame of brood. And frames 9 and 10 contain mostly pollen. Up in the second box, frames 1 and 2 were completely empty and void of all comb. When I give Beatrice some more honey, I'm probably just going to take those 2 frames out and put the honey frames in there. Frame 3 and 10 were not completely drawn out, so there was a lot of space for more comb, but the comb that was there was being filled with honey. Frame 5 had it wasn't the bottom half of the frame that had the brood, it was actually a center, about a third of the frame had some brood still in it. It was just the edge of the brood nest. Queen Beatrice's hive was well organized. I didn't have to reorganize any of the frames. There was only the one frame that contained drone brood, and it was already off to the side, so I just left it where it's at. And all of the good worker brood comb was pretty well centered. But looking at Queen Anne, they had 7 frames that contain a lot of drone comb. As you can see, in the first box, frames 3, 4, and 6 had brood comb, but it was empty at the time. There were no eggs or larvae. Those frames that show pollen, frames 1, 2, and 7 through 10, really didn't have a whole lot of pollen. At best, they were about half full. Up in the second box, there were 2 frames of mostly honey, and the rest was all brood, although frame number 6 was mostly drone comb, but it was empty. So in Queen Anne's hive, I did a little bit of moving around of frames. Down in the bottom box, I swapped frames 7 and 9 so that the drone comb would be out towards the edge, and I'd get some worker comb in the middle. And up on the second box, I actually moved frame 6 all the way to the end and shifted 7 through 10 over so that the final state looked like this, where the bottom box 7 and 9 were swapped, and in the top 6 was shifted to the end. And this was in an effort to get the drone comb to the outsides, so that when spring comes around again and the colony is clustered in the center, that they'll be clustering on worker comb, and that's where hopefully the queen will be laying her eggs, so they can get a good start on building up some workers. This diagram doesn't show it, but there's a third box on Queen Anne's hive that contains all 10 frames full of honey.
Things have gotten really crazy right now. There's a lot more flying and noisy bees. I haven't had it be this way ever. I don't think they're very happy with me. I have finished the inspection. I'm just starting to close things up now. But they've been getting really loud and starting to bump into my veil. They've never done that before. They haven't been stinging. I haven't felt any stings. But they've been crawling all over me, my hands. I have honey all over my hands, and that may be one reason they're all over my hands, but I don't know why they suddenly been stirred into an uproar. They're not in a good mood.
You want me to leave the house open, Bill? I'm going to go down to Weimar.
You don't need to. Okay, now they're all over my hand. All the honey. Actually, yeah, could you leave the house open? I gotta wash my hands. Just trying to clear away a crowd of bees that was jammed in there. I gotta put the third box on.
It's all over.
I know, I'm trying to find a place to grab it. This is a heavy box with bees flying all over it. Alright, so I'm just going to squish there. Let them settle down before I scoot that box into place. They're, I think what happened was all the bees that I had over there were trying to fly back home, and that was making a larger, larger amount of bees here in the air. Because now all these bees are moving down and fanning. If I were to try to put the box in place right now, I'd just squish a lot of bees. So I'm going to clean up some burr comb while I wait for them to settle down a little bit. When I put on the bee escape, I can't have any burr comb here because it'll just get in the way and possibly block and trap the bees. Trying to do this gently because a lot of these bees are head down. When they're head down in the comb, they don't know what's going on around them. If I were to just scoop along, I'd be cutting them all up, squishing them. So I'm just trying to take my time and be careful. I don't want to damage any bees. That's probably good. Now I just got to get this box straightened out. I don't like using this much smoke, but there's so many bees in the way that that's really the only way for me to do it. Can't even see the other side. We're good. Okay. One casualty. It's a heavy box. Now the bee escape is going to go on. As I said earlier, bee escape goes on with the screen side down. This is only going to be on for a day, so I don't really need to have it painted. I'll probably paint it one of these months just so it lasts a little bit longer, but it's not going to be raining today or tomorrow, so it'll be fine. And then the last box. Now, I used to have a top entrance on here, but I'm not going to put it on because that would give them another way back into the honey super, and I don't want them in here. So they just get the top cover, the inner cover here, and these are not entrances, those are screened off. They're just vent holes. And then the outer cover will go on over this, and they'll have no way to get back in to the honey super. So by tomorrow, I should be able to come back 24 hours, and this honey super will be empty of bees. They should have all moved down.